All right. What is next?
We went to the movies last night,
Ooh, movies.
and we are going to review what we saw.
A-list.
AMC A-list, Hyper 5.
Yes. Last night, I texted you while I was working. I was like, yo, do you want to go to the movies after I get off work? And you're like, you want to go see Overlord? And I was like, yeah. And then you're like, wait. This sounds like it's a bad decision. And let's go see Green Book. And I was like,
I don't know. I've heard good things about Overlord.
I don't care what you heard. Anthony's word does not carry very much. So, regardless, we went to go see Green Book last night. The most likely Oscar-nominated movie in some categories, probably. Starring, what are their names? I'm sorry, I already forgot.
So it was Viggo Mortensen.
Who's the lead?
Tony Vallelonga. I think I said that right.
Okay.
Mahershala Ali, who plays Dr. something or other.
Shirley.
Dr. Shirley, that's right. And then Linda Cardellini, who plays Tony's wife, who stays back in New York.
Margaret?
Dolores.
Sorry. Yes. Those were the three main actors. There was a couple other actors around that, but they were the three main guys that led the chart, or the two of them, obviously, on the trip. This movie is about a Italian security guard, kind of in a way, a people person.
Yeah, he called it
public relations.
Yeah.
Public relations, where he basically was the security.
He's basically like an enforcer.
Yeah, for a nightclub called the Copacabana.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the club was shut down for 2 months, and he needed to find work. It showed you them trying to find work for him, and then eventually he gets this offer from Dr. Shirley to be his bodyguard, because Shirley is going on tour, and he's going on tour in the South. And at the time, it was very dangerous at times for certain situations, like the ones he got into to survive, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it was, I guess, unfortunately. But yeah, it starts off with him, or what's it called, Tony putting a deal out. It's like, no, I'm gonna do this, this is how it's gonna be. And basically was like, it didn't seem like it was gonna happen, but obviously it was gonna happen because of the movie. We seen the trailers. But regardless, happened. They come together. They go with the other two, the bassist and the cello player, and then they start their little journey. Unfortunately, they were not, their expectations about Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh didn't meet their expectations, unfortunately. But yeah, they go through that, and they go through a really extraordinary journey, for sure. They go to jail one point. What's it called? Dr. Shirley gets drunk in a bar, and Tony has to save him. Tony saves him again because of Dr. Shirley's, what would you call it, nights.
Yeah, I guess. So he got. Oh, that was when they got. No, that wasn't when they got arrested. Never mind.
He almost got arrested.
Yeah.
But basically, was caught in the shower at a YMCA with another man, and then Tony gets him out of that situation. But also, there's a lot of, they also learn from each other from certain things. Like Tony shows them yo, dude, this is KFC, dog. This is the best. Oh, and then music too as well. And then also Dr. Shirley teaches him how to write letters to his wife, which are very beautiful. And you find out at the end there about her thanking him about helping him write the letters.
Right. Yeah.
And also just, I guess, the struggle of Dr. Shirley that Tony finds out, that very, not climactic scene, but a very dramatic scene where in the rain, and he talks about I'm not black enough for black people, and I'm not white enough for white people, and what am I? I forgot the technical line, but then that was kind of a dramatic moment.
I think it was the other way around. I think it was white. If I'm not white enough, I'm not black enough, I'm not man enough.
Yeah. So something like that.
Then what am I?
So that was a very dramatic scene. A lot of comedic moments in this movie that weren't comedic moments at all. Oh, I mean, they were probably not, how do I say,
I would describe it as the humor is not very subtle, but I mean, somewhat subtle.
Yeah, in the writing it was purposeful, but in the actual moment, you probably Tony didn't think it was as funny, or Shirley does, but we found it very appealing.
Yeah.
to laughter. But yeah, it's a very great performance by the what's his name, Virgo
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen. Very good performance by him. And like we talked about earlier, he's a little bit over the age of Tony's actual age. I think he was like probably like 20 years older than what Tony was, but that was fine. He made up for it for his performance. Honestly, that was he had the better performance out of everyone, on my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not to say anything from what's his name, Ali.
Mahershala
Ali. I thought he had a great performance too, but not as good as
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think this movie, it's probably my favorite movie that I've seen this year. I think it's guaranteed to get nominated. I think without even seeing, if I was to not see another movie this year, I'd probably guess that it's going to win Best Picture. It like we were talking about, the humor in it, like if you're paying attention, is very subtle. It addresses kind of the assumption, just because of like Dr. Shirley's, I guess, circumstances, being like living in the North his whole life. Like he lives above Carnegie Hall in New York. And then Viggo Mortensen's character Tony, like being like a very stereotypical like Italian from New York at that time. So kind of like the contrast of like him being like Tony being the stereotypical person that he is, and then Dr. Shirley being like completely separated from like what Tony thinks of as like his culture, sort of thing like that. Like you see it even with just simple things like when they stop at KFC and like that whole conversation, everything that goes down there. And then like later at the dinner that they go to, like they like, oh, like we asked our servants what we should serve Dr. Shirley, and it was like, oh, fried chicken or whatever. And they like looked at each other.
Yeah.
So there's those sorts of things. It tells a pretty good story, just to like the development of like both of those characters along like their journey through like you could see the progression as far as like how they were being treated, because their journey for the tour takes them like progressively south.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can see how it changes, like start like when they stop in Pittsburgh, and then like they're in Ohio and Kentucky, and like how like the treatment gets worse, and then like they get pulled over for like Dr. Shirley being out at past sundown and stuff like that,
and then Tony punches the cop,
right?
And then Dr. Shirley calls Robert Kennedy to get him out of the situation, which was funny because that scene.
Spoiler alert, I guess. For this
I don't care. When you see him, he's like, "Who'd you call?" And then they find out in the car, and he's like, "Call the president's brother. He's attorney general. He should do this time." So I was like,
yeah. But I thought it told a really good story, with a lot of just like relevancy to today, to like modern times. It's something that a lot of people that can relate to. There's humor in it for everyone. Just kind of not only the kind of ridiculousness of their situation sometimes, but like I said, like the contrast between just like the two of them, and then like their expectations of each other, brings forth a lot of like humorous moments that aren't necessarily like it's not supposed to be like overtly like comedic, but just like it is just because of like the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I have a lot of parallel feelings to watching this and Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
Okay.
With John Candy and Steve Martin, that just two people from the opposite worlds kind of like come together, and then they go on this like long journey, and at the end they kind of both get vulnerable, and they kind of get to know each other, and they like have all like life lessons out of this as well, to like not judge a book by its cover, which is like I think like the moral of the story kind of, or like the biggest message of all this is, because you saw Tony and how he was with African Americans coming in his house towards the end, like he was like welcoming him Dr. Shirley and to kind of just not, regardless of like obviously what Dr. King's like said, I'd rather be judged by my my character than the color of my skin.
Yeah, the content of your character.
So like that was kind of like I think the biggest message, and I think hopefully people will take away from this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it does a really good job of kind of conveying that and conveying, and showing the progression of like both of them throughout the movie, just based on like their experiences with each other, the situations they were in, and like how they learned from them. So yeah, I think, and like at this point, without having seen really anything else that's probably going to be up for Best Picture, I hope that this movie wins.
Yeah, I think it will. I think the only movie what we haven't seen yet, but that'll probably give it competition is Vice for me. Just because the nature of that movie, but we'll see once that movie comes out. But yeah, definitely recommend it. It's a small film. There wasn't that many people in the theater, and it just came out this week too. Which was
it's a week old now at this point.
I think when we went to go look at our seats to pick our seats, there was only like 2 people that reserved, and then us, and then there was maybe another less than a handful of people that was actually in the theater. Even though those people that took our seats which is fine. There was other seats to sit in too, but it's what it is.
I think they were just like in the wrong row.
Bro, they were.
But they were like straight up in our seats.
Yeah. But it was fine. We sat like 2 seats away from them. It was fine. I was gonna say, yo, you're in our seats, but we're gonna sit over here though. That's
just
what.
Make them aware. Make them feel bad.
Yeah, I was gonna do that,
Yeah.
but I'm not that much of a dick, unfortunately. But anyways, yes, we definitely recommend it. It's a feel good story, honestly. I think a lot,
especially with like the holiday ending at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely a movie. It's also appropriate too. There's cursing in it, but like, this is a movie I would very much.
Was this even rated R? I don't think it was. I can't think of anything.
PG-13 probably at most.
I'm trying to think of how many F words were in it if it was, because if it's more than one, it's rated R.
Yeah. I'll double check it if you want to, but yeah, no, it's a movie I would watch with my nephews because I think it's a good lesson, or my nieces, too, just to sit down and watch it. And I can't wait for my parents to watch this movie too because they like good movies.
Green Book. It's rated PG-13, so
Yeah,
there must have only been one F word.
Yeah. Maybe it was at the end where it says, Tony, do you want me to play the show? And he's like, let's get the F out of here. That's probably what it was. But regardless, what do we have next?
So our, I guess, final segment of this show is going to be This Week in History.
But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below if you watched the Green Book and if you enjoyed it. Let us know your favorite scene. And, yeah, let us know also if how many Oscars you think it's going to win.